spatial queries are an important feature of GIS and allow us to do things that we can't do just within an attribute table as we could do with other IT type applications. So for example, we might want to select all the counties that contain volcanoes. And this would be done with two different layers, one a layer of volcanoes and the other the counties, and we would be able to select these. Counties that intersect rivers would be another example here. All of these counties within the United States would have a river, right? One of these major rivers running somewhere through it. And other examples would be parcels within a floodplain or cities within 50 miles of a national park. All of these are things that we have to understand the spatial relationship between one or more layers in order to select some of them. So there's three basic types. Something can intersect another layer. That's when features touch each other. Something can be contained or within another layer, and that's when something is inside of something. And something can be proximal or have proximity to another feature. And that can be either when it's touching something, like they share an adjacent boundary, or it can be within, if they're within a certain distance of each other. So these are the three basic categories, but when you look in the commands within ArcGIS, there's a whole bunch of other things like the boundaries touch, or they share a common line segment. So all these different things are just special cases of these three types of spatial operations. So for example, we have to know the particulars of these. So for example, if we look at the contains operator, so we want to say the state of Oregon, which of these counties in the state of Oregon are completely contained within the state of Oregon. One thing that this completely contains means it is not permitted to share a boundary with the state of Oregon. So even though we know all these counties are within the state of Oregon, in order for them to be completely contained, they can't share any boundary with the state boundary of Oregon, such as we see here, or such as we see here for this county, or any of these counties here. The only ones that don't touch the state boundary would be the ones that are selected in blue here. When we're doing this type of selection, we have to be aware of what the target layer is and what the source layer is when we're doing spatial queries. So the target layer is the one from which the features will be selected. So in this case, that's the counties. And the source layer is the one that the target layer is going to be compared to. And in this case, that's where the volcanoes are. So we have to know where the volcanoes are in order to select the counties within which a volcano is contained. But we are selecting the counties themselves. The volcanoes are not being selected. So we have the select by location tool in the geoprocessing. And here's where we can do our input features, our relationship, and our selecting features. And for these spatial queries, the target is going to be the input feature. And in this case, we're seeing what intersects or touches. And the selected counties will then be highlighted on the map. So here's some examples of spatial queries. We can select the counties that contain volcanoes. We can select the counties that intersect and touch the major rivers of the United States, or we could select the cities highlighted here in pink that are within 50 miles of any of the volcanoes that are shown as green triangles here. You can see some are pretty close, but they're just a little further away from a green triangle, so they're not selected. Here's some more examples of spatial queries. We can select rivers that intersect Texas. And one thing to notice about this is some of those rivers don't begin in Texas, they begin in other places or end in other places, but they all pass through Texas. So those would be rivers that intersect Texas. We could intersect counties that are within 50 miles of a major airport, selecting all these counties in pink here. Or we could select states with borders that touch Nebraska. So here's Nebraska in the middle here, and here's all of the states that touch Nebraska, sometimes along very long borders, other times along just very small portions of their border. So one of the limitations of spatial query is that you can only select or not select the entire feature, such as the rivers here that you're looking at. So if we look at rivers that intersect Texas, we're going to get the entire length of the river from its beginning here in this example in Louisiana through its end in New Mexico, but it is going to pass through or intersect Texas, so it will be selected. If we wanted to get more specific and only show the portion of river that was in Texas, then we would have to use different tools like the clip or intersect command in order to cookie cut those rivers so that we only are saving or cutting out the portion that actually overlaps the state of Texas.